There are movies like Citizen Kane, and that transcend time and continue to speak a message to us throughout the generations. Metropolis is one such movie. I still remember the first time I heard about this movie. I was taking a film history class at college, and we were going over the silent era of movies. And then we came to the subject of Metropolis. I'd heard that Metropolis is a movie that at one point in time was a lost film. I'm very thankful that is almost not the case anymore. According to Wikipedia, Metropolis is now 95% restored, and I hope someday that it will be fully restored so that I can watch it again for the rest of it. Because I can't stand knowing that I haven't seen all of the scenes in a movie. And in this college course, my teacher compared Metropolis with the movie Elysium, which was a terrible movie, but that's for another review. And how Metropolis had a similar plot to this, in that 90% of the population were poor workers with terrible working conditions, and the wealthy are living the good life high above, and that's actually a pretty good comparison, I will say. But unlike Elysium, Metropolis is unlike any movie I've ever seen before. It's easily one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I do not say that sentence flippantly. Honest to God, I thought this movie had a fantastic look to it and was just so unique in a way that I can't even describe. I think that Fritz Lang did a fantastic job directing this movie. The special effects still hold up in ways that I did not expect, and the editing was very much on point for a movie from the era of the 1920s. I think the best scene in the movie was the scene where Freder was having a nightmare, and it shows a shot with a bunch of eyes staring at the screen. Then the 7 deadly sins in the church come to life, and the Grim Reaper shows up to swing his scythe. I was in love with this scene because I just marveled at what Lang did, and I wondered to myself, how the hell did he do that with the cameras available at the time? And the mood and atmosphere of the movie was just something that was almost never seen in movies back then. I think that this is the least conservative silent film that I've seen thus far. I was surprised to see something like the main girl dancing for the audience with nothing but seashells to cover her tits. And the Grim Reaper thing seemed like something that was too dark to put in a movie during that era. But then again, the only other silent movie I've seen is Birth of a Nation. I wasn't really a fan of The Birth of a Nation, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who is a fan of something that glorified the KKK. One thing I did want to mention that I find very interesting is that over the span of 10 to 12 years between The Birth of a Nation and when Metropolis was made, was the use of captions in silent movies changed quite a lot. When I watched The Birth of a Nation, I noticed that there were not very many captions of dialogue. Most of the captions read like a paragraph in a book, and it had words that were very descriptive and carefully chosen. But it's clear that the people of the silent era changed the way that they used captions, because there were some captions in this movie that were descriptive. But there were definitely more captions with descriptions in Metropolis than there were words of dialogue. And I'm just throwing out a number. I think that the ratio of dialogue to description in Metropolis was about 50-50. Seeing the way in which movies had evolved, even 10 years between movies, fascinates me. Another thing I find fascinating, though, is that when they refer to the robot, they don't use the word robot. They refer to it as a machine man. And I found out that the word robot didn't really come into use until it was invented by a man named Karel Čapek. And he used that word in his play called Rossum's Universal Robots. It was his brother that suggested to him the church Slavonic word rabota. I think that it's extremely interesting that the word robot was not used in this movie, even though the word robot came into existence about 7 years before this movie existed. And I'll be honest, I didn't think that I'd enjoy Metropolis, but I was surprised to find that this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And Metropolis has earned its place on my list of my top 10 favorite movies. Metropolis gets 5 stars out of 5.